Red 2 standing by, all 4 lit and in the green. Welcome back to Donkey Kong 64, and you might be wondering why we're back at the treehouse area. DK and Diddy have some potions they need to get hold of. So I'll be getting those and then we'll head up to Frantic Factory's lobby. DK has the Gorilla Grab from Frantic Factory, Simium Stranus. Well, Simium Stranius.
Let's see if you're as strong as you're supposed to be. When you find a lever, stand on the foot plate and press B to try and pull it. I bet you can't. Clear off and go and get someone else.
So we'll quickly run back, grab Diddy, and away we go. And we have Diddy's next potion. Simian Spring, Lepus Largium.
Even I can jump higher than you, Diddy. So I'm sure you'll be needing this one. Find my pad with your face on it and press Z to leap high into the air. Clear off, we're all done for now. You're not getting another potion for ages.
Alright, so I fibbed slightly. We are not yet going to Frantic Factory. We're going to hit some switches around the island. Lanky has one right behind K Lumsey's. If we stroll along steadily, go into first person view, and there we go. One gold banana. Lanky has another one inside K Lumsey's little boat. But we will get that later. Very nice cutoff. There, we'll put our gun away and go and get Tiny, who has one over by the Banana Fairy Island. Appropriately enough. That giant rock will break open later on, because that will actually take us to the final level. So, quick banana port over here, and we can top up our crystal coconuts, which is a real boon because we'll be running short on those. We do get the permanent increase to our crystal coconut. That was the wrong thing. Oh well, we at least gave the Banana Fairy a nice solo, but as I've questioned, how on earth do the Kongs actually share their ammo count? Because it doesn't quite make sense. All that fruit is just completely different. Because, well, coconuts are completely different to peanuts. There may be some genetic similarity in there somewhere. You've got the complete difference of grapes and pineapples and then feathers. How do they share the same ammunition? I suppose it's a gameplay mechanic so the game doesn't have to keep track of every individual little bit, but oh well, it's just one of those things. Anyway, we want to take our 3 teleport so we can go and get Chunkies. There we are, actually decent shooting. Now, actually, I just want to test something. I'm deliberately playing the instrument. Oh yeah, that's strange. They share ammunition, but they don't share energy for their instrument. Why's that, I wonder? That's really, really unusual, and I killed a Kremling somewhere. There we are, one more gold banana to add to the total. Now, there's a bit more we can do around Crocodile Isle or Krem Isle. I think it is meant to be called Krem Isle because, as we know, Crocodile Isle went under. I'll need to grab DK for this one because we will actually need to go up Krem Isle and make our way near the entry to Frantic Factory. Now, interesting note, if you press and hold B to attack when you're going through one of the portals, say to a level, you'll still have the energy charging up as you go for your wave attack. you can use that to take out most enemies. It's generally considered the easiest way to take out Koshers, which we will encounter in Gloomy Galley and onwards, because otherwise you would have to be waiting for the right time to hit them with an orange. Now, let me go into first person view. That didn't really help much. I can rotate the camera. I think we gotta make... There we go, actually made the jump, not too bad. But there we are, another gold banana. We can head through to Snide's HQ, which I think we probably should. Now, because I'm sticking to handing in all the blueprints with DK, we're not going to see that one for a while. But back up the island we go. We can loop around that way, but what's there at the back is a monkey port pad, which is for Tiny. That will come into play much later in the game. We don't get that until Crystal Caves. So we shall proceed on to Snide's headquarters, and eventually I will get on to the discussion topics, which are factory and industrial levels for the first bit. What is it about those that always tends to make them so dark and gloomy? There is really something about factory levels that just gives them a bit of an unsettling atmosphere. It's especially true in the DK games because I suppose the industrial aspects wind up being a bit of a contrast to the natural environments of the Kongs. So we have a couple of things we can do in here. We'll have to get Diddy first. I think it is intended sort of as that sense of contrast. You have all these beautiful natural environments on the DK Isles. And then you've got just those industrial complexes, sort of stark environmental devastation, all that damage and things like that. So Batty Barrel Bandit is basically a timing-based slot machine. I will probably have to concentrate a little bit. Press A to start. Gotta get the timing just right. Damn. Think we're gonna have to restart that one.
Welcome to bonus stage.
I'm not very good with slot machines in real life. I'll probably be able to focus a little bit more on everything once we get through this. I did it again! The music has started. Oh, this is just like the slot machines in Pokemon. They're rigged. Yeah, so this one is really unforgiving. You've got to get the timing just right. Anyway, I'm probably going to be concentrating a little bit too much. Wait for it to come around. Okay, let's speed this up, shall we? I'll stop talking and start concentrating. Trying to get that done took me longer than I'd been recording before I started that. The problem with Batty Barrel Bandit on that fast one, or even just under normal circumstances, is that some of them behave like the slot machines in Pokemon. They'll deliberately move out of the way, even going a couple of times over, just to screw you over things. Anyway, let's get Chunky's disco pose going, and we'll continue discussing the factory levels. We will probably have to deal with a few stronger enemies along the way, like Kasplats in this arena. The ones in the DK Isles are usually quite a bit tougher. You want to put Kasplats out of commission most of the time, because they will, of course, cause problems, but keeping them alive does at least mean that you'll be able to knock them out a bit. But yeah, factory levels generally provide sort of darker atmosphere along the way because, well, in these games it's kind of a contrast, but in so many occasions they're just incredibly dangerous. There are all sorts of OHS breaches along the way, and Rare seems to specialise in making a lot of their factories as dingy and dangerous as possible. Just look at things like, well, Rusty Bucket Bay! Why did I call you Cranky? Anyway, yeah, things like Rusty Bucket Bay. Pretty much everything on board has a grudge against you. It's all particularly dangerous. And you've got all that oily water to deal with, for example. It's pretty much a massive health hazard. Kremlings Industries has burning oil drums, and the lights are obviously quite problematic. Keep trying to mash the button with Chunky. Some good old fisticuffs will do the trick, though. But yeah, basically, so many factory levels are just really dark, grimy, dingy, and dangerous. All those industrial themes, I don't know whether it's some sort of social commentary on it, but they generally seem to be some of the most oppressive environments around. I mean, you just have to look at everything that will be going on in Frantic Factory, and you realise that this place is exceptionally dangerous. Then between Oil Drum Alley and Blackout Basement, plus the green waters heavily implying some sort of pollution in Poison Pond. That's incredibly dangerous in its own right. Now, I will need to actually not go to Frantic Factory again, because we had a couple of bananas we can get, or at least some setup up near Angry Aztec. But yeah, you compare the colour schemes as well. It's all about setting atmosphere. You go to Kong Isle, it's bright, it's cheerful, it has all these happy colours that just sort of boost your mood and things like that. We've got the trombone, and we've got triangle. Chunky play triangle, which actually sounds more like a Celesta, I believe the instrument is. Chunky rock out in Chunky's own way, and we get a gold banana. But yeah, it's a really good contrast and a good way to set things up between the two games. You get a much different style in things. You notice how Donkey Kong Country 1 is fairly bright, it's pretty cheerful, it's more relaxed, you've got those darker tones in DKC2. And that's sort of all down to how the mood goes, how it's set, even with things like the colour schemes. Like, you look at how dark and drab and dingy Krem Isle over there is, and you just look at the warmth of Angry Aztec. Like, compare this, you've got sort of warm colours here, it's generally bright, it's cheerful, you've got earthy tones. You've got nature over here, then you have sort of green, you've got stark metal. You've got, well, cooler colours, perhaps providing a darker atmosphere. We can see the entrance to Frantic Factory over there. You basically have a setup that pretty much screams things being a bit unnatural, that it's a complete contrast to everything the Kongs stand for. And you can see that in the levels like Mechanos and Chaos Core in DKC3. They're fairly dark and dingy as well. The pipelines are pretty dingy, the enemies often have some evidence perhaps of genetic engineering or modification somewhere along the way. Like the buzzers, the fact that the buzzers are actually cybernetic wasps. Yes, that's right, future me, I did say wasps this time around because I know you've been yelling at me. But you have that mix of mechanical enemies with organic ones, and it just creates an incredible contrast as K. Rool moves his schemes on. A drastic difference between the piratical enemies of DKC2, for example. Now, there's this up here, which we can take care of with a well-placed punch. We get a banana fairy and a kasplat. So we want to get Tiny out because that is, of course, her Splat. And there we are, one blueprint. It's C down for the camera. C down. Get your controls right. I'm a little rusty, it has been a while, but that banana fairy is easy to get. And we have very neatly snapped that. And we get a good refill. I will, of course, need DK so we can actually grab that lever over there and finally pull that. That will, I think, open up another instrument-based gold banana, I think. For DK. So yeah, I mean, it's just... There are so many little things just about the contrast in just the way everything is presented that helps set the scene with industrial levels. They're often some of the more dangerous ones. Like Rusty Bucket Bay comes towards the... it comes towards the end of the game, basically. It's the second last level, and it's probably the most frustrating. Not necessarily super hard, but you do have the issues of the oily water, which provides a mechanic not often used, and the engine room, which, I'm going to be honest, the engine room sucks. I think the rest of the level is okay, but the engine room really, really sucks. I'm not going to lie there. Oh, we got a few bananas for DK there. Come back for those. We'll grab these with Chunky, but there will be something I want to quickly go back and demonstrate. Now, if I get... Rightio, so the one I tried to aim didn't work? Ah, well. Anyway, we grab money for Chunky. We head back here, and let's take on that mecha critter. There we go. The primate punch, for some reason, can take out the mecha critters. Interestingly, this is the only grenade vulnerable enemy that can be taken out with the primate punch. So we'll head down here. Camera's not going to cooperate. But notice that a lot of things like bananas actually are just sprites. Which is a bit odd when you get to see it. But, so, going back to those industrial levels, just the way the music sets things up as well. Rusty Bucket Bay and Grunty Industries, interestingly, have somewhat different music. Frantic Factory is fairly dark, but there's a slightly goofy, sort of lower brass-driven feel to the music of Rusty Bucket Bay and, indeed, Grunty Industries. Grunty Industries can be incredibly frustrating, we're not going to lie. But it is also quite an entertaining level in its own way. It's incredibly difficult to navigate, but it does have some pretty interesting challenges along the way. At least I enjoy it, but then again, I'm kind of a madman because I do actually enjoy Rusty Bucket Bay. It was my first experience, as I believe I've mentioned, with Banjo-Kazooie, and you might wonder why on earth I actually do still like it. Because, I mean, starting out with one of the hardest levels in the game, Click Clock Wood is somewhat tough, but it's made up for basically by just how beautiful it is. That's a really well-designed level that uses, again, just sort of color palettes and things like that in order to create its atmosphere. The different color palettes benefit the style of spring, summer, autumn, and winter so well, and again, all those industrial levels tend to have very dingy color palettes compared to all the beautiful natural worlds the Kongs find themselves in. I will need to go back to get those bananas. Whoops. Now, that switch will wind up coming back after a while. Yep, there we go, so we can punch. Alright, let's get the timing right. There. Unfortunately, we have to go through the cutscene again, which is a bit of a nuisance. I'll keep going for a few more minutes. And there we go. So yeah, there is always a sense of danger and, well, destruction in a way with the various industrial levels. I think it's always used as a bit of a contrast, at least in some of the rare games I've played, we might as well get this going, to our somewhat more, well, our animal companions and things. It's a similar deal with Banjo and Kazooie. You sort of see how some of those levels are a direct contrast in style to the way Spiral Mountain looks. So, there's something else I'm going to be talking about. Donkey Kong Arcade. Oh boy. So we'll go back to the start and get those bananas for DK, then we'll head back here. But yeah, it really is a good sense of dichotomy, the difference between sort of all these industrial levels, the darker elements of the DK series, and how they shape up compared to the natural world. It's fairly present in Banjo-Kazooie as well. Like, you have a look at the areas where Gruntilda is most directly involved, and they're all dingy and dark and sinister and things like that. With this, it's a contrast between the heroes trying to defend their home and sort of the massive industrial pollution and things like that, and the danger the Kremlings represent to their world and their way of life. It's quite an interesting setup, in all fairness. We'll get out of the way of that. And we got a few more of these before we'll go back and grab the Kasplat for Diddy. Doing alright on bananas for most of the Kongs. I know it's something I've talked about a fair bit, but it's like, just the way the environment is set up can do a lot in creating the effectiveness of a level. I've talked about my favourite styles a bit, but for some reason I do like these factory-style levels. Probably because of beginning everything with Rusty Bucket Bay. And that's a weird place to wind up starting off. But it's a good challenge nonetheless, and it's ultimately used in the end to create that interesting dichotomy compared to all the natural worlds you've got. And having that contrast is always important, I feel, because you're going to have that difference you've got to have that difference between the natural world and the villain's lair. We should probably take Tiny up there. Do we have anything for anyone up here? This bit up here is pretty important because it's got some stuff for Lanky, and it's also where we get, I think, both Cranky... Ah, yes. Yeah, Cranky and Candy, but we have everyone's instruments. I don't think we get anything for... Don't think we get anything musical instrument-wise. So, I'll grab Tiny and use her to proceed through the factory. It's sort of... Well, I should grab the Lanky bananas, in all fairness. It's a bit of guesswork as to where everything is, but... Like, you can even see the overall design aesthetics sort of compared to some of the bosses sometimes. Armydillo is still an enemy that appears in, like, in a few jungle levels in the original Donkey Kong Country. It's not too far removed from Jungle Japes. But you compare something like the boss of this level, which is an extremely dangerous toy, and it just adds to things. Like, Mad Jack is a fantastic boss fight. You've got essentially this gigantic, monstrous clown. You're fighting him as the youngest Kong in a dark arena, very high places. There's maniacal laughter worked into the music. Like, in all fairness, it sets the atmosphere so well for everything being so incredibly creepy. Aha, here we go. This is the way that leads us to a mini monkey banana. We'll need Diddy. And one of the most infamous parts of the game, Donkey Kong Arcade. I'll get to that in the next episode. We'll grab this banana for Tiny as we wander around with Mini Monkey. And then the challenge begins anew. Quick cutscene. And got some bananas for Diddy as well. So good opportunity if you ever want to tag out through here. Use these essentially as a tag station. We'll get those bananas for Diddy, and then I'm going to get ready for the big challenge. I will probably wind up setting a restore point so that I don't have to go through the problems of just going through the blasted opening cutscene over and over again. But I will not be save scumming, basically. I'll be attempting to get everything done on my own merits, even if there aren't that many of them. Might as well get it out of the way, because not only do we have to do it for a gold banana, but we have to do it to get one of the special coins we need in order to finish the game. So I think this is probably a good spot to wrap up. We will begin that cursed challenge next time. Thank you very much for joining me. Till the next video, this is Red 2, returning to base.